Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Sustainability Advisory Board on November 1st. And do we have anyone here who would like to make a public comment tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to ask Brandon to please call the roll.
All right. Michael Beardsley. Eric DeGroot.
Here.
Pat Halquest.
Here.
Lisa Marone.
Here.
Vic Oliver.
Here.
Ken Osmond.
Here.
Bob Peschel.
Here.
Brad Spanbauer.
Here.
Aaron Wojciechowski. Michelle Bogdan-Mutzel.
Here.
And Margie Davey.
Here.
You're on mute, Margie.
Am I?
Oh,
No,
now
I'm
you're
not.
good. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you. Could be my computer.
I'm here, Brandon, honest.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, well, moving along then, we'll have the approval of minutes from our October 4th meeting, our meeting from last month. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we approve them.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Brandon, could you please call the roll on the minutes?
Sure can. Eric DeGroot.
Aye.
Pat Halquest.
A.
Lisa Marone.
Aye.
Vic Oliver.
Aye.
Ken Osmond.
Aye.
Bob Peschel.
Aye.
Brad Spanbauer.
Aye.
Michelle Mutzel.
Aye.
And Margie Davey.
Aye.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, thank you. Then Brandon, I will let you introduce our first presentation.
Sure. So Peter, we have Peter here from Legacy Solar Co-op to give us the presentation that we discussed at the last meeting, just to introduce what they do and the Fox Valley Solar Group Buy that's currently active. So with that, Peter, I'll let you take it away. You should be able to share your screen if needed.
Okay, and it is a little eerie because I just reviewed the recording of the last meeting, and your faces are almost in the same spot. So I feel like now I get to participate in the meeting that I just was watching. Let me share. Make sure you can see. Can you see that?
You can, yeah, if you can you increase the size at all?
Let's see. Yeah, can you see just the PowerPoint, or can you see my whole computer?
Just the PowerPoint.
Okay, how's that size?
That's good.
Okay. Okay. So here we go.
It's a little off-centered. If you could pull it to the left a little bit.
Oh, weird. Okay, so I thought it was with other platforms. It's isolated and it doesn't matter where you move. Okay,
That should
will
be
leave
good.
it right there. All right, today's topics. So who are we? Who is Legacy Solar Co-op? What we provide, what our solar group buy program looks like in general, and then specifically the Fox Valley Solar Group buy. So first, who we are. We're a Wisconsin-based membership-owned co-op that provides energy efficiency services. And our goal is to bring people together, individuals, institutions, installers, to help grow solar in Wisconsin. We do that by educating those parties on the benefits of solar, providing consulting services for those populations. We do renewable energy credits, we do solar bonds, and we do solar group buys. So multiple entry points to access our services. Here are some of our partners that we work with, some of our member installers and other partners. A little bit more detail about the different ways you can interface with us. We call it being a solar owner, or owning your own solar array. Being an internal champion, being a tax sponsor, being a solar subscriber. So some of these are no cost, some of these are low cost, some of these are a considerable investment for your budget. Some of the projects we've done, a map of some of the projects we've done and all the different kinds of entities that we've worked with. So going on to solar owner. What is a solar group buy? You talked about that a little bit at your last meeting. Just in general, limited time program that reduces solar installation costs for residents, businesses, and nonprofits in a specified community or region. These are some of the logos of entities that organize group buys in the States. You can see this one, Milwaukee Shines, is a community-based organization. MREA, who you're familiar with, organizes multiple group buys in the state. Madison is the program for Madison. And then there's Legacy Solar Co-op. There are probably others. Pat mentioned the Sierra Club organized a group buy. I think even I've heard a mom's group has organized group buys before. So getting into our solar group buy model, there is this cost savings component. We educate people involved in the program on the economics of solar specific to their site. We do a RFP if needed for the community. Always have the highest quality vendors that are member installers of ours. We've had it where member installers are not currently members, but they become members to be part of the group buy. There's a financing component if the resident is in need of financing to make the project happen. So in general, and this might be familiar to some of you, it might be similar to what the Sierra Club and MREA offer. So we've selected an installer, in this case, in the Fox Valley group buy, it's Northwind Solar. Once the group buy is launched, we provide informational sessions, whether it's general to the general public or to specific community groups. It could be the Lions Club in Oshkosh. It could be a statewide organization that has members that live in Oshkosh. We find that that's kind of the most direct way to reach people. And once we start working with someone, we generate a custom solar report in the end. So we have their electricity bills, we have their photos, we know what kind of roof the homeowner, business, or nonprofit has, how many amps their service is, orientation of their roof. After that, we create a solar report that I'll show you in a little bit. There might be some fine tuning that needs to happen. We answer questions. We may even offer to compare another quote that the customer received, and then we revise if needed. If we have new information that the customer's given us. And then finally, at the point of the resident, business owner, nonprofit's ready to move forward, that's when the installer comes in. to visit the site. They verify all the details. They do all the measurements that we were only able to do via Google Earth. And then the schedule, installation schedule. So this is kind of what we provide customers. After they give us their bills, we kind of summarize that information. And ultimately that and the orientation of the roof and the amount of shading judges how large the system might be, which judges the cost range. And then it gives them a sense how much of their energy can come from solar. The chart on the right is showing their energy versus the energy of the solar array. And then a little bit about the financial breakdown. So what it would look like if they paid cash, 50% loan or 100% loan. And then an outline of what focus on energy incentives are taken off. In this case, it's a rural property. They get $1,000 off. Urban zip codes only get 500 currently from focus on energy. And I think WPS and We Energies are definitely part of focus on energy. So that's that being the predominant utility in the area. Other utilities have their own programs. And then finally, the federal tax credit, which takes another significant part off. So this might be some, new information to the person who submitted a form to us. So we're currently running Dane County, Group I, Iowa County to the west of us, and then the Northwood Solar Group I in the northwest, and then also Fox Valley Solar Group I. The other three, one of them is lasting till next year. No, two of them, sorry. One is ending at the end of this year. Fox Valley started just in August. It's running through the end of next year. Our goal overall is 50 installations, and it's Northwind Solar's offices are in Amherst, so they're basically drawing about an hour radius to the east and southeast, and then so if someone a little bit around maybe Fond du Lac might be the edge, and west of Green Bay might be the other edge. So Oshkosh is right in the middle there. And it is for nonprofits, farms, small businesses, nonprofits, residents, and under a certain size, usually about 20 kilowatts. The average for a home being somewhere between 5 and 10, usually, kilowatts. A little bit about Northwind Solar. They're, like I was saying, based in Amherst, a worker-owned co-op of about 25 employees. They've been around since, I believe, 2007, with over 80 years of collective experience in renewable energy. They just opened up their new location, which I should have put a picture of here. It has a battery bank of Tesla Powerwall batteries and more than enough solar energy to power their facility. Let's see. So that's kind of the background of what Solar Group I, Legacy Solar Co-op style is. And I just wanted to see if there were any questions at this point.
Thanks, Peter. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I don't know if Margie, if you want to pick on people, if you can see their hands, or if you want to just, if you guys got something, just go ahead and shoot.
I don't see any hands up, but maybe we should review for everyone. If you do want to raise your hand to ask a question, if you just kind of hover to the right of your name, a little hand will come up and you can click on it. And then we can see that you have your hand up. But I don't see any at the moment.
If there are no questions, I can just go through what my thoughts on engaging City of Oshkosh with the Fox Valley Solar Group I were. So obviously we started the group buy in August, and in August also was when Legacy Solar Co-op connected with Brandon and other City of Oshkosh staff. I believe Pat saw the announcement. So obviously the group buy was in existence already, whereas if we had planned it from the beginning, it might have looked a little different. So that being the case, we can still definitely take on Oshkosh residents who are interested in going solar as one of the options out there. You know, as the City of Oshkosh codes have been relaxed a little bit, from my understanding, it's doesn't solar panels, solar arrays don't involve conditional use permit. Is that right?
Yes.
So going solar is a little bit more little easier, and maybe residents and businesses and nonprofits will start to kind of research for themselves what's out there. And I understand that there will be a Oshkosh, City of Oshkosh Solar 101 page. We're definitely happy to be one of the options listed, if that's the direction that the city is wanting to go. We're open to providing informational sessions, however broad it needs to be for the city to be able to promote it. Kind of how I started with a presentation about Legacy Solar Co-op in general, and the Fox Valley Group Buy being one of our options. So there's that awareness raising, I guess, for Oshkosh residents. Happy to be part of that. Any newsletter articles. So any ideas that you have for us to be involved, we'd be happy to help. Well, the focus of our group buy, the thing we have a certain amount of pride in, is our one-on-one attention to the customer. So it's a little different than other group buys in that we do place, put one-on-one attention on the person submitting the solar assessment form. We're there to, like I was saying, compare proposals, kind of walk them through logistics. Sometimes other group buys may have more of a hands-off approach, but we try to provide as much service as possible. Another idea we had recently, we're planning our strategy as far as Office of Energy Independence grants that are coming due in January. And that's another angle, if the city is interested in collaborating with us on a grant, that could even boost the efforts with the group buy, and in general, encouraging people to go solar. We haven't fleshed out the ideas there, but it's definitely a possibility. We'd be interested in collaborating.
And when did you say
overall,
that's due, Peter? I'm
Say that
sorry,
again?
I interrupted. When did you
That's okay.
say that grant is due?
Those grants are due in January, and I'd have to check if that's the end of January or the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
They just came out, so there's no time lost so far. And then we do consulting, so we would be interested in collaborating with the city in general. So just like we offer multiple ways of intersecting with the co-op in general, with the city, we'd be interested in any number of ways you're interested in interfacing with us. And that's it for me for this slideshow. So any questions, let me know.
I see several hands up, and I wasn't paying attention to know which order these go in, so Ken.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in the site assessments and other processes you go through, have you been able to develop specific strategies to develop to address concerns about roof system maintenance uh, for a lot of our potential participants? I mean, if you have to redo roof replacement
Yeah.
at some time during the life of the panels, you could be looking at $1,500 to $6,000, depending on the size of the project, the state of the roof, et cetera. Do you go through that with potential clients? And
Yep. One of the questions we ask is the age of the roof, and if it's anything above 12 to 15, 10, not so much. We definitely go through all the options. In the end, the person may be comfortable installing the solar panels anyway. They're fine with removing them when the time comes to replace their roof. Some installers are different. Some just recommend roof replacement at 15 years, no matter what. Some leave it completely up to the homeowner. We talk about maintenance as far as snow removal. That's a big question people ask: is what do I do when the snow piles up? Part of our calculation is about a 5% loss due to snow. People can roof rake their roofs if they want. Usually it's not part of the recommended, necessary, I guess, things that the homeowner has to do. But it's tempered glass, so they won't be damaged if people do that. So yeah, walking them through that. If they have a 17-year-old steel roof, that might be just fine. If they have a 17-year-old shingle roof, the roof might be shot already. So that's definitely part of the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Brad?
Thanks. Peter, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I see, do you follow the cooperative model? Like, do you follow a model of a typical co-op?
Could you say more about that?
Sure. So like generally co-ops kind of follow a certain sort of cooperative business model. I mean, is that how you operate in calling yourself a co-op?
Yeah. So for instance, our project consultants, if we were to do a project, 40 to 50% of the fee that we charge goes to overall co-op operating expenses. The other is given to the consultant.
Okay. So do you need to be a member? Is like Legacy Solar something someone would join as a member and then they can buy into or become part of these programs like a group buy? Or can you?
Right. So yeah. No, they don't have to be the person that submits the form. The resident small business or nonprofit does not have to be a member. At some point, we'll introduce that concept to them and see if they would like to join, but it's not a requirement of the group buy.
And then I noticed, I don't know if you're able to go back to the slide that had the kind of financial breakdown. So I noticed you had in there like you, I think, showed the $1,000 kind of focus on energy incentive, and then you've got the federal tax credits. So is the 13.5, is that the cost? I guess I'm trying to figure out like, what is the benefit of someone, like, is that cost reflective of the benefit of the group buy?
No, this is so the overall. Go back more. Right. So we don't specifically have a row that says savings from the group buy. As we can continually improve the program, we could add that definitely. But right now, this retail cost $13,500 is the cost of reflected by the cost per watt that we negotiated with Northwind Solar as part. So the price per watt is is including the savings from day one. Whereas other group buy models, it says savings. I think Pat mentioned the Sierra Club gave her $1,000 a check at the end. That price per watt may have started a little higher, and then at the end of the program, based on the amount of people involved, that's where they got the savings. That's part of the group, the cooperative goal there. Whereas in this case, we started from the beginning offering that lower price per watt.
So the 13.5 is basically already the price where you said we're going to work with Northwind Solar. Here's the price we can get for people if they wanted to buy into the group buy. If they didn't do that, that 13.5 would likely be higher if they weren't buying in a group buy. Is that correct?
Right. Yep. It could be 5 to 10% higher.
Got it. Okay.
Depending on the size of the system,
Yeah.
components.
I appreciate what you laid out here. I just was like, oh, where is the group buy benefit shown? but I see it's already built into your first number there. That makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So is the goal to get individuals, as in like private homeowners, to do this? Is the goal to get businesses, or is it really just kind of open? You're looking for 50 applicants who want to add solar?
Yeah, 50 applicants. So, for instance, our last year's group buy in Dane County, and to some extent the other group buys, someone might apply on behalf of their nonprofit that owns a building that might end up being about a little bit bigger than the average home system. We've had an instance where someone applies on behalf of a hospital, and that's definitely not part of the group buy because it's 200 times the size of a typical home, and that's more like a different process than a solar group buy, more project consulting. But yeah, it could be homeowner, nonprofit, small business,
But
farm.
each installation needs to be 20 kW or less. Is that correct?
It just oftentimes will be. Most homeowners won't go above probably 18 is the max. Mostly between 4 and say 12.
Okay.
And at the point where it gets to 20 kW is oftentimes it's a larger project, so the price per watt comes down pretty considerably at that point anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. I don't want to take up too much more time. I just want to ask, Brandon, is it possible? I mean, is this something we can share via social media and promote as the SAB to just make people aware of this program? I mean, it sounds like maybe Legacy Solar would just like some help getting the word out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having them present today also is kind of in that same realm, right? We're just this is a televised and public, so having them here also is part of that.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Pat, you have your hand raised. Pat, I think you're still on mute.
I have several questions. Some of them have been answered already, but what size system that you have of the example on the screen right now with the estimate of cost? The one you just put up, where you have
I was going the wrong way.
500K system. That one, oops, you just went by it. I'm just wondering how big a system that is. Oh, okay, so it's a little over a 5 kilowatt system?
This
Or
is about a 4
kilowatt system? Okay.
I believe 4 kilowatt system.
Okay. And is the group buy open to governments too? Government buildings, or typically government buildings want bigger systems, or?
Yeah, probably they would be looking at a bigger system. And that's involving different focus on energy incentives that would different levels of savings there.
Okay.
But definitely could start. We could start with the group buy process, and then we can just bring in members of the co-op that would work more with municipalities.
Okay, and then what's happening to the federal tax credit? It's
Yeah, so
right.
I've heard that it could. So it's 26% currently, expires December 31st of next year. Then it goes down to 22 till the end of 2023, and then it goes down to 0 after that for residential. But I did just hear that it may go up to 30% with the new spending bill, but potentially for up to 5 more years.
Okay, but for the duration of this group buy, it's at least 26%.
Yep.
Okay.
And I guess we can reasonably assume that focus on energy is still going to be the same. It's gone down over time, but it should still be there in that $500, $1,000.
And it's recently gone up for nonprofits, though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. So nonprofits, if a 10 kilowatt system for a nonprofit or municipality building would be at the $8,500 for a system that might, that's maybe about 26%. It's designed for nonprofits to get essentially the same as the federal tax credit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions, I think. So.
Okay, thank you, Pat. You hit on 2 of mine, so great minds think alike, of course. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add to this discussion? Okay, seeing no hands, is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Peter, that maybe we forgot to ask?
Not that I could think of. We're happy to be involved in any capacity that you feel is appropriate. So just let us know how we can help.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much for presenting to us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
I'll make sure to get your information in the minutes, Peter.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. I'll let you to your meeting.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, well, next on our agenda, we have a presentation about the new Parks Administration and Operation Building, and we have Ray Maurer here to help us understand what's going on with that. Hi, Ray.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. I do have John Wallenkamp, who is the lead for Cooney Architects on our project. Some of you may be familiar with John and Cooney. They, John, probably 8 years ago, designed the Streets Field Operations Facility. And so he's familiar with Oshkosh, familiar with processes here and kind of what we're looking at for our facility. Our building is a building that's been in discussions by the council for a number of years as being one of the city facilities in most dire need of replacement. The council has funded the new facility for us, which includes our administrative staff, as well as our field staff, fleet maintenance, and fleet storage, in addition to other things John will share. But I'm going to turn it over to John. I know he's prepared a brief presentation and some ideas that he's going to run by you as far as things that we've looked at through the planning process already on some of the environmental and sustainability items. So John, if you're ready, take it away.
Everybody see the screen okay?
Yes.
Great. So as Ray mentioned, the new facility is going to...
John, sorry, if you could zoom in a little bit, maybe. It's difficult for me to read, so it might be difficult for others.
Yeah, overall, can you see the plan? I was going to just hit on the plan so
Okay.
everybody knows where the position of the building's going. It's
All right,
going to the
sorry.
current location of the existing site. How's that? Can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Great. As Ray mentioned, this is a second project we've done for the city, and really taking advantage of some of the sustainability pieces that we did years ago, but just, as time has gone by, things have gotten better and things. So I'll highlight kind of how we're tackling this facility. Number one item, really recycled materials, concrete and steel. So this actually has two parts to it. The goal of this site is to any of the existing concrete foundations, floor slabs, masonry walls will be called to be recycled and used as aggregate for fill on the current site. A lot of the existing building is structural steel. That material will be hauled off-site and put back into the industry as recycled steel. That's item number one. Item number two, we're going to be using on the main low-sloped roofs what we call a low heat gain roof system, which pretty much is in the colored. So it's either going to be a light gray or a white. So we're not getting a black membrane taking on a lot of heat sink over the building footprint. Item three, daylight harvesting. We have a lot of clear story windows and windows specifically placed to take advantage of any solar gain we want within the building or lack thereof. Areas we don't want additional solar gain, we purposely placed overhangs, things like that, to diffuse the direct sunlight, but still to give the natural light inside the building. The lights within the building, part of the daylight harvesting, would actually sense that daylighting and not turn on when they're not needed to be on. All the interior and exterior lights would be LED lighting. The building positioning was reviewed. I touched on that a little bit, of gaining the solar gain where we want it and not gaining the solar gain where we didn't want it. So the building positioning, how we put windows, things like that were taken into account. Low VOC emitting materials. So this gets into all the materials on the exterior and in the interior, carpeting, tile, anything. Our goal is we look at those materials to make sure they're very low VOC. High efficiency HVAC and plumbing. We analyze all the pieces of equipment. I'll get to this later on a little more in depth with focus on energy, but we've kind of nailed down all the systems so we make sure this building helps pay for itself through efficiency. One of the big pieces is the energy recovery unit. Buildings like this need to exhaust a lot of air at some given times. Our goal is to use that energy recovery unit, which takes 70-degree air and discharges it outside per code, but it uses that heat energy to produce new heat that tempers the fresh air coming into the building. High R values for the roof and walls. Our goal is to use a R48 on the roof and R24 on the walls. Good presentation you had earlier. This is kind of a follow-up to that. The roof system will be ready for solar panels. So the structure's all been designed and in place when the time comes to put solar panels on this facility. Low maintenance plantings throughout the building and around the building. Bioswales. A big piece we had done was a focus on energy program where they did audit 3 different bundles for the projects. They kind of go through I'll say a Mercedes-Benz down to a Yugo, different bundles. And we picked the mid-level bundle for your building. That's item 13. Item 14 shows us that mid-level bundle still gets us between 28 to 32% better than baseline code for energy demand and energy consumption. So it's a good payoff on the utilities and the systems we're putting in place. The last item, number 15, we're still kind of reviewing this to see if it makes sense. Looking at potentially harvesting water from the storm water from the roof through the roof drains into a collection system that can be used throughout the city. That's just a payback thing we still need to do to see if it makes sense in the building to do. So with that, if there's questions specifically relating to sustainability and what we've put into the building, we're happy to field those questions.
I guess I should ask or make sure that everybody's aware of our existing facility. We're on the corner of Witzel and Idaho. And so that's the footprint of the building. You'll see Witzel, go back just up a little bit, John, if you could.
Yep.
You'll see Witzel Avenue on the top and then Idaho Street running on the east side there. And our existing building is on that corner.
I'm just curious, is what you're calling the let's see, what did you call it there? Energy recovery unit. Would that be an air heat exchanger? Is it?
I don't know. It probably acts as the same. I have not heard it called that, but pretty much if you can envision any air for exhaust that has to exit the building, say if it's at 70 degrees, it goes through that like an exchange, and it uses that heat and that energy to reheat the new air that has to come into the building.
Okay, I think we're talking the same thing, just with a different name. Thanks. I do see some hands up. Pat, would you like to go first?
Sure. It's an impressive list of stuff that you've looked at and worked on. Can you, I've always liked the idea of something being solar ready. Can you explain more detail what that involved doing? Did it have to do with the orientation of the roof or the slope of the roof, or what did that involve?
Yeah, great. So the major piece is structurally that it can take it. So there's additional load that goes on to a roof. So if you imagine if you never were going to put solar panels on the roof, you wouldn't have to account for that weight. So that design weight of putting those solar panels on the building, whether they're mechanically attached or ballasted attached, adds weight to the structure, which takes it down from the roof to the columns, down to the ground to the footing. So it's all in that complete frame system that it's ready to handle those solar panels. In addition to that, we would have holes, not holes, but sleeves ready if for when solar would go on the building. A lot of times you'll see retrofits, so they have to run the cables along the outer walls and then down into the building. We would have that penetrations ready on the roof.
Okay, and then is the orientation of the roof south facing? Is there a south facing roof or?
Correct. So this is a low sloped roof. So if you're seeing that image on the bottom left of the corner, it's real similar to the field ops building. From the ground, it's going to look flat, but on the roof, it's actually low sloped. And that's where those solar panels would sit. In the long, narrow section going east and west on the page, left and right on the page, that little section of roof would be able to take the panels oriented south for the to take advantage of the most collective of the ray of sunshine.
Okay. And then my other question had to do with the focus on energy packages. I'm assuming there's some kind of, are they giving a financial incentive to adopt the package, or that's just what they?
Yes, there has been a financial package awarded, given to the city, and that's money that they allocate and set aside until the project is built and audited at the end. The city will not see that money, but yes, there has been a dollar amount set aside for the city.
Okay, and then I'm just curious, how much more expensive would have been the high level package? You said you decided to do the mid-level bundle. How much more expensive would have been the high level bundle, and how much energy would that have saved?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers exact, but the energy savings wasn't that much great for the payback. I think the payback, I'd have to go back to the report, but it's kind of a team effort when you review that. It's a balancing act of initial costs and payback over, a building, a municipal building that, we tend to look at it for 75 years, not just what you see in private industry looking at maybe 7 to 12 years. So this is over a 70-year period.
Okay.
But I don't know the numbers exactly, but we'd be happy to get you the bundles.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brad.
What is the planned source of heat fuel for this building?
Natural gas.
Okay, does any of the kind of these sustainability items, so I guess kind of related to Margie's question about the energy recovery unit, or some of the other things, was there any look into something like a heat pump system that could be electrified?
Yeah, the one piece we did look at is a VRF system, which runs 100% off electricity. That was a system we're looking at, actually still looking at. The issue we have here is the office portion of the footprint is so small compared to the overall, what I'll call the vehicle parking garage area. So we'd be forced almost to put two totally separate systems in. So that was part of the, balancing act we did with focusing on energy too.
Okay, thanks.
I have a follow-up question to that. On the drawing there, can you show us where the offices are? Okay, so that side's the office and all the rest of it is,
This is, yeah, and then
Parking.
this is the full footprint of the garage.
okay. So you're saying that a geothermal or something could not be used in the larger portion at all?
Well, what geothermal, the big thing you look at is the office footprint needs to be there. And some will tell you need anywhere between 40 and 60,000 square foot of usable to make it cost effective for the wells and things like that. That's basically the rule of thumb that we've been reviewing.
And why does that have to relate only to the office? I'm not understanding that part.
Because when you do geothermal, there's it doesn't introduce the fresh air. You still need a mechanical system to bring in fresh air, and really the geothermal is like like a boiler, so you know what I mean, through piping system where you can get heat and cooling out of it, but you don't have the fresh air. With a large garage area, you got such amount of fresh air that needs to be brought into the building and removed from the building that needs to be done through fan mechanical type systems.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if you have another question, Pat?
I'm just curious, I don't know enough about the Parks Department. Oh, so the vehicles are what, things for lawn maintenance, or what are all the vehicles that we have? What are they used for? I know it's kind of a basic question.
Yep, we have a mixture of mowers, from small zero-turn mowers up to 16-foot mowers with wings on each side, to trucks, to utility, let's call them bread trucks, if you can think of those, that our trades techs use to go out on site, so they're set up with all their tools. We have dump trucks, we have chippers, we have trailers, open trailers that we have pieces of equipment on, but we also have enclosed trailers that our lawn maintenance staff, they'll put the riding mowers and their weed whips and everything inside those trailers. So a multitude, because it's not just parks. We've got parks, we have forestry operations, which includes a large aerial lift, a small lift, the chipper trucks, as well as a chipper. And then we also have the cemetery operations that'll be housed here. So the cemetery operation has backhoes and additional trucks and pickup trucks as well. So it's, when you hear parks is just one portion of our entire department, really.
Okay, thank you.
And Brad, you have some more?
Yeah, I was just curious because I was actually at the Parks building today, in fact, to buy a memorial tree. So is the new building completely outside of the current, so where the current building sits? Because I think that building abuts pretty close to Witzel. The current building, yeah, it's kind of in that area.
Yeah, the new buildings. Yep, the department will be moving out of the site 100% for us to construct the new building.
Got it. Okay, so this is an entirely brand new building, and the existing building is going to be completely raised.
You got it. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any further questions? Pat, is your hand up again or still? I'm going.
We have more questions. I just forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, I have a question. It pertains more to the exterior and the surrounding area. Being as this is the Parks Department, what are your plans for landscaping in the area? And are you going to have a display area for different types of trees, or, you know, anything like that that's related to forestry and grounds and that sort of thing?
John, I can let you talk about some of the roadside plantings. But the one thing, if you look, let's call it the south on this page, where John is moving his cursor in that green area, we purchased that. It's a landlocked position the city acquired a number of years ago, and we actually use that for some of our nursery stock. When we purchase trees, or if we have some trees to eventually transplant, we'll house those there. So it is part nursery stock, but then along the roadway, if you're familiar with our existing site, really everything along Idaho Street is just blacktop. There's parking right off the road. And what this does is actually add some pretty nice green space that, John, if you want to blow up the screen a little bit and kind of show them how it resembles maybe a little bit to what you did at the field ops as well.
Yeah, so we want to leave visibility up here. The monument sign will stay kind of in the same area, but if you're familiar along Witzel right now, there's quite a few little drainage swales, planted bioswale areas, similar if you've been to the senior center in the center of between the north and south building. There's some really nice vegetation bioswales between here. So we're kind of showcasing that, this long, narrow section. There again, heavily foundation plantings along the facility. And then just to help screen the parking area, just some plantings and some berms, just to give some movement, not just straight berms, but you can kind of see there's some movement, trees planted in between there.
So,
Okay,
Margie, our intent is to make it look very pleasing compared to what we currently have with a stark pole shed and asphalt, basically. And I think the number of plantings that John is calling for is going to really do that and soften up some of the building, as he showed along the east side, looking at plantings tight to the building as well.
Okay, I was just curious if you were going to take this opportunity to do any kind of a pilot project or a demonstration area. I'm thinking like out by Coughlin, where they had the rain garden, where they were, it's a area where people can go and see how that really would work. And they had done the bioswale thing right out front with that too. Did you have any plans for anything like that that would be educational as well as beautiful?
I think it's something we could talk about with John as far as the bioswales and the benefits of having those. Maybe we can have some information signage maybe off the parking lot between that, in that grain space, right, somewhere in that area, explaining the benefits of those as well. Something we can definitely take a look at.
I think it might be a good opportunity to help educate people a little bit more, especially when the building's brand new and people want to come by and see it. Another question I had was, you do have quite a bit of, I know it's not the ugly stuff that's out front now. I have to confess, the first time I went there, I was a little surprised at the parking area, but I think there is some hard space over on the other side of on the south of the building. I know you have the requirements for parking stalls that are all met and everything, but have you considered any kind of pervious pavement in that area, sort of like they did at the arena? You're not familiar with that?
Oh, I'm familiar. I don't know, but yeah, what we've seen is sometimes with the heavier traffic, these stalls but also we'll be having a heavier truck on there, that we've seen a lot of negative return on that impervious pavement just getting filled up and debris clogging that system up.
That makes perfect sense. What about on the other side of the building where you have just staff parking and visitor parking? Hasn't really been thought about, right?
Yeah, we haven't studied that piece of it. Nope.
Okay, and what about EV chargers for the electric vehicles that are on their way?
Yeah, really, the way we've tackled these in the years, over the years, we've put in a lot of infrastructure that just, we outguessed ourselves, where once the EV, the vehicles came, it was the wrong infrastructure. So our goal is to, make sure there's potential power inside, but not overthink what's coming. Because if you get that vehicle in 6 months or a year, it's going to have a totally different requirement than what today is going to be. So I think that's something the department will just have to look for once they start securing any electric vehicles or charging.
And if you can kind of show the area potentially, if it comes down to employees having the electric vehicle needs. When we talked about this, we really looked at it as visitors coming to our department. The number of visitors coming in has gone down sharply because of the things that they can do online now. But we talked about in the future, if we need to get employee parking with the charging stations, getting conduit and infrastructure into that green space is what we'd be looking at.
Yep.
So we've given that thought.
Good. I'm glad you have.
Yep.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or ideas or anything you'd like to add? I guess I'd just like to put in one more plug for native plantings. I know this is not a shoreland area, but they still do benefit lots of places. And I think, John, you had, when you brought this to the Plan Commission at the workshop, I seem to remember you had talked about there would be some that you had taken that into consideration. Am I right?
Yeah, I would have to check with the landscape designer because I don't know what those plants are offhand, so I'm not sure exactly what was implemented.
Okay. Well, of course, our sustainability group would highly recommend native plantings, and we know that Bill Sturm has a lot of expertise with that. So,
And we did work with the staff there, Bill, to come up with the plantings.
excellent. Okay. Well, thank you. I don't see any other hands up, so I guess if we have any further questions, Ray, we'll just send them to Brandon and ask him to ship them over to you.
Yep. And if anybody wants to come tour our facility and see why we need one, I'm more than welcome to take you on a little tour.
Having been on that tour, I would say, not recently with you, Ray, but in the past, I would say, yes, it's quite an eye opener. We
Thank you,
definitely do
everybody.
need this facility.
Thank you. And thank you, John, for coming in this evening.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Ray.
Thanks, John.
Okay, moving on. Let's go to our Menominee Shoreland Restoration update. Michelle, are you here? Yes, you are.
am. Yeah. So we had a really great season. I think I've kind of talked, I don't know why my voice is kind of going out on me, so I apologize for that. But yeah, we had a good season with, multiple new volunteers. We had our bird houses that were new this year that I reported to the Bluebird Restoration Association of Wisconsin. So we kind of did a little bit of research and had some tree swallows stay in 2 of our nest boxes with a total of 8 fledged birds. So that was exciting. And we are currently working on plan for the next, few years or so, where we want to go and things like that, and just taking a general look at our operations and what makes sense, what's efficient, what we want to do basically. So we're going to get all of that together and then hopefully report this winter to the Parks Advisory Board about what we are planning. And of course, we would love to I'd love to possibly present here too when we have that plan available as well, because obviously it has a lot to do with sustainability. So I will give you all an update. I'll let Brandon, I'll let you know when we have those materials and presentation available so that we could schedule when we could possibly do that with the SAB.
Great.
Okay. Well, thanks, Michelle. Always something happening over there. She's thinking when she's not digging in the dirt. I can just tell.
Oh, I have one more thing. I'm sorry, I meant to mention. The Audubon Society is doing a bird watching event. And it's at the Millers Bay Restoration Site. So that's one by Ames Point. And it's really cool. So if you're interested in that, that's a Saturday, November 6th from 1 to 3. So you can just go out there. You can Google Millers Bay Restoration Site and you'll get the location to be able to go out there. So just a nice little plug for our friends from the Audubon who volunteered multiple times this season to help us with our plantings.
Yes, the two groups collaborate quite well together. Yes. Okay, then, moving on to our agenda items for our next meeting. It will be December, which means the UWO students will be giving us a report. And Brandon, remind us what they'll be reporting on this time. Is
I
it?
think I think it was urban agriculture.
I think so
They're going to do a
too.
full. So if you guys can remember back from, I think maybe April or May, we had the presentation from the couple, the residents on Harrison Street that wanted to do that urban agriculture. So there was only 2 students, I think, in this group this year. So that was the one thing, that was the one item that we would, that's the city would like more research done on to see what they could find, from other communities. And because if you can remember that presentation, a lot of what they had shown was stuff that's done on vacant lots, and that's already allowable. So, what they were particularly trying to do was, you know, with a home being on the property and accomplishing some type of agriculture that could be sold on site. So that we tasked those students to do some more research and figuring out if anybody else does that, and if they do, what's the permitting process.
Okay, does anybody else have anything that they would like to see on our December agenda? Yes, Pat. Oops, you're on mute.
Yep. So in December 2019, the UW Oshkosh students reported to us with proposed code changes related to native landscaping. And I looked back over their report, and I think what they were recommending was to revise the guidelines so that to kind of clarify what with respect to native plantings on people's property. So this was in chapter 17, article 4, section 17 through 44. They had proposed, recommended ways to revise that so that it was clear that native plantings wouldn't be subject to that 8-inch rule for turf grass right now. And I don't think there's probably a real big issue with people complaining about their neighbors having native plants that aren't under that 8 inches. But the way it's written right now, somebody could have a neighbor complain, and then they could be forced to mow their native plantings the way it's written now. And so it's I don't know if it's so much a big change in what would happen, but it would clarify the language and I think make people feel more comfortable doing native plantings around their homes. So I'd like, as far as I can tell from looking on the city website, that revision never took place. And so I'm not sure if it was looked at and decided that it couldn't be done, but so I'd like to know that if that's really the case and why, or if we just haven't really followed up on it. So
Thank you, Pat, for raising that question. I suspect it just kind of got forgotten. So
well, we
I
entered
think
into
that
the pandemic and all that good stuff right after that. So
yeah,
maybe, but yeah,
kind of like our lives got forgotten, right?
Yeah, I think they did some useful work, and to me, their recommendations look reasonable, and I think would make it so that somebody like thinking about doing a native planting on part of their property would feel more comfortable that they wouldn't be subject to having to mow it later, So
with that in mind, and knowing that we don't have a real heavy schedule that I'm aware of for December, I wonder if it would behoove us to actually review the last 3 years or so of the UWO recommendations and make sure that we have hit all the high points on those. Does anybody else like that idea?
That would
I
be
love
what,
that
about
idea.
six reports or something, 3 years, there's a report every semester,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we could just, Brandon could send us the links to those because we would have all the reports
Mhm.
now from those.
Yeah,
And we could review them and it
make
may be as easy as
recommendations.
glancing through them and going, that's done, or asking the question.
Would we be allowed to take action in terms of recommending that any of those be adopted and sent to the city council if they involve code changes? Can that be done at the next meeting, or do we need to do that as a two-step process? Or
I think that could not happen at the meeting. I think it would take the January meeting to make that happen.
okay, but we could look at which ones we want looked at and then probably
Right.
staff need to look at them.
We'd have to see what it is we want to change and then figure out how we wanted it changed, and then we could vote on it the following month,
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
Another question that I have is anyone interested, and you don't have to be, but if I just wanted to put this out there, is anybody interested in switching back to in-person meetings at City Hall as opposed to having virtual meetings?
Not now. I think we need to let the numbers go down. I mean, they had been going down, and then last week they started ticking upward again. It's
Okay, anyone
unfortunate.
else have an opinion on that?
I would vote to stay virtual still at this time. This is Vic.
Okay. Anyone else wish to weigh in either way?
I also would like to stay virtual. Lisa.
Okay. Well, hearing nothing from the other side.
This is Eric. I'd also like to stay virtual if possible.
Okay.
Yeah, same. And also thinking, just because I would want to be masked if we were in person, and then it's harder to for people to understand us, I think, when we are masked at that time. So it might just be easier too for our recordings and things like that, for it to be virtual for now.
Yeah, it's
my
kind of
opinion.
tricky because what we miss in the interaction that we have when we're actually in the same room together, what we lose in that virtually, we gain in clearer voices. So I totally hear you, Michelle. Okay, we won't even consider that for December then. We shall plan to meet virtually again. It seems to be the choice of the group. And if no one else has any, oh, Bob does. Hello, Bob. You might be muted. Still muted. Still muted.
I'll just chime in real quick before Bob gets his speaker to work here. On the UWO student projects, yeah, just from staff's perspective, the way it's been explained to me is we get those presentations, and then it would be up to the board to pursue, one of those projects further if it was something of interest. So if you guys wanted to revisit them, that's a good idea.
Great, thank you. Okay, Bob, can we hear you now?
I think so.
Yep.
All right. So my comments actually relate to the emails that were sent out late last week in regards to whether the Sustainability Advisory Board wanted to take part in the conversation around the wording of the Chief Oshkosh plaque. So I did request, because of basically because of the connection of the Native American spirituality and ideology being around sustainability, that I thought it would be a unique conversation for us to be a part of that. Looking at the timeline, I don't know how relevant it is if the Common Council plans to make a decision within this month on that wording. So I guess, what is there relevance to us and timeliness to us adding this to that topic to our December meeting? Because in my request, I did ask for it to be put on tonight's meeting. And I was told that it would have to wait until the following meeting for that to take place.
And I did follow up on that also, Bob, to check on the timing, and got the same response that you had. And if in fact they do vote on it yet this month, it would be no longer relevant. It wouldn't be irrelevant, it just would no longer be relevant. And so maybe we can just say that if other people are interested in this also, that we can wait and see if the council has not passed anything by the time we're setting our next agenda, that we could add it to December then. Or if it doesn't look like they will have by our next December meeting.
Okay.
That's the best I can do. I don't know, Aaron, if you know if that's already on an agenda that you've seen.
I'm not aware yet if that is the case.
Okay.
We do have a meeting on Tuesday, but not that I'm aware yet. Or sorry, not yet. No, wait. On the 3rd. But that's specifically for budget talks. So our next meeting is going to be on the 9th.
Okay. And you haven't seen that agenda yet, I'm guessing.
I have not.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think I'm just going off of the email that was sent out by Mr. Lyons regarding when the council would take that up as well. So that was the timeline that he provided, I think all of us, when he asked for our insight.
Right.
Was that it would be on the 9th.
Yeah. And I think, Bob, the best we can do at this point is just wait and see if it's still relevant in time for our December meeting. It's hard to say. I don't know exactly where that is. I haven't been following it other than just what we heard through our emails. Okay, anyone else? Pat?
I'm just wondering, in terms of responding to the solar legacy presentation, do we need to do anything in terms of, I guess the idea is ideally we don't want to just promote one installer over another, but is there anything we need to do in terms of, getting that kind of stuff on the social media, or, it'd be nice to have an update on the Solar 101 page, but I don't know when that would be ready, if we're going to include information on that about solar installers, or, that would be nice to hear about that. I don't know when the appropriate time for that is.
Okay, and we can ask Brandon to talk to IT too and see how quickly that could get on the website, if it would be timely enough or not.
Yeah, I mean, like Pat, if you know, besides doing a Google search, if we want to put together a list of installers, I can easily do that by just Google searching it, unless you had some other particular way of figuring out who these people are.
I can look on the MREA site, and see who they have listed. I can do that if you want, or.
Yeah, I mean, either
to you, or
we can collaborate together too. I mean, I'm open to, if you want to send me a list and I can cross-reference it with something I put together just by doing some searching online. I don't have any knowledge of anybody, besides just Googling it. So.
Okay.
Brandon, if you want to put Appleton Solar on the list, I know they work with a lot of people in the community.
Yeah, that's like the one that I am aware of.
Okay.
And I think it, unless I got this wrong, but with the presentation, it sounds like this is different than just focusing on one installer, right? Because they also said that they would work with the homeowner if they have quotes from other installers too. It just seems to me like it's a opportunity potential for anybody who's interested in solar, besides just if we promote this, basically. I don't know that it's promoting just one, but that's kind of what maybe I got that wrong.
I mean, Northwind Solar is the installer,
right?
And that's the only installer working with the solar group by.
Yeah.
As a part
Legacy
of their
Solar
co-op.
is like this conduit that'll provide that document that shows, the financing and all the other stuff.
I see that Brad also has his hand up.
Yeah, just going back to Bob's comment, and perhaps this is just more for my own understanding, because I followed up to the email that Mark sent to the board as well. So if we wanted, if the Chief Oshkosh Monument plaques wording is still relevant for us to discuss, do we need to make a point in this meeting right now to add it to the next meeting? Because my takeaway from the response that I received from Mark's email was that agenda items can only be added in a previous meeting. Items have to be added in meeting to be allowable for a future meeting. Is that correct?
That is my understanding as well. That's how I took that as well.
Okay, and this is news to me because we have historically, in making the agenda, added things that have come up since the previous meeting that needed to be addressed in a timely manner. So maybe Mark and Brandon and I need to talk about that so that I'm clear on that too. I'm not sure I am, Brad. So thank you for calling that to our attention. If that is, oh, and Bob, do you know historically?
No, I don't know historically. I'm just passing on that the email that I got from Mark also indicates that it has to be decided as a group for an agenda item to be added as a future agenda item. So the response that Mark gave me is in line with the response that that Brad is indicating as well. And it sounds like the method of which how Brandon understands. I think there's always been leeway to be able to add items depending on timeliness and need and such like that. But it could be suggested that this is just a common good practice of how we go about agenda building, from meeting to meeting. So, but it's neither bad nor good. It's just what it is. So,
Or perhaps or perhaps in reviewing in a similar way of going back and reviewing previous work that students have done on behalf of the city to investigate sustainability issues, perhaps it also makes sense to investigate sort of proper process, and if process needs to be addressed, then let's address it. Because I think items are going to come to our attention that one could not know about at a meeting, but it would make sense to add it to an agenda prior to the next meeting in terms of timeliness. We cannot know everything that could or could not happen. And so if that's the process, it has to be added from a prior meeting, then that perhaps removes our ability to discuss things as a group that come up in the interim.
Yes, that was kind of the point I was trying to make too, Brad. I put down for our future agenda items, I put December UWO, but I also put Chief Oshkosh with a question mark and let's add process. And Brandon, we do have some information on that I don't believe we've discussed as a board yet because we were waiting on getting it. So the flow chart thing. So maybe we can put that on for next time. I'm curious what Michelle has.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we should add it, the discussion for next meeting. I don't know if we can go about it. I think it'd be good just to talk about what did happen. Even if there was a decision already made and we can't affect change at this point, or what we would do. I don't know. I think that it should be added just so that we can have it on there.
To be clear, is it the process or the Chief Oshkosh or the process about Chief Oshkosh?
The Chief Oshkosh Monument, and the new plaques to go around it.
Okay. Brad, back to you.
I'd like to also add the topic of subcommittees in a similar manner, to just discuss subcommittees, how they work, how they can and should work. And again, I guess, being able to work outside of this meeting space with the ability of avoiding things like walking quorum, etc. What are the rules? What can we do? What can we not do? I'd like to have a good understanding of that to be efficient as a group. Thank you.
Okay, I think that it might be the perfect time for us. It looks like we're kind of doing a wrap up of our year anyway here. It might be a perfect time to ask the city attorney to share with us, to remind those of us who've been on for a while and to share with some newer people how the whole process works and what we can and can't do. So maybe we can put that down, Brandon, as we'll invite her to attend.
Okay, the list is getting a little long here, so let me recap. All right, so I have so for sure in December we're going to do the UWO students because that's kind of like that they're at their year end. We got native plants and other student projects. Do we want to maybe put that on hold since we got all this other stuff, or are you guys open to keeping that on there? Keep it on?
I'd like to have that on there, at least
Okay.
the part about the landscaping native plants, whether we
All right.
do all of them ones we've heard of, but because spring will be here and people will be trying to plant stuff and trying to figure out what they
Okay.
can do without worrying about, running afoul.
And then we'll put Chief Oshkosh on there and the plaques. I'll just label it as Chief Oshkosh, discussion. So then the next ones are kind of like together maybe. So questions of I mean, I don't know if we need to talk about this to the next one, but do we want to have it as an item to like go over all meeting stuff, subcommittees, how we add things to a meeting, just like
I see all of those
meeting
as
in
being
general?
very related.
Yeah.
And I think that we would
procedural.
want Lynn to just review with us the high points, but we also have information on process that we can share.
Yep.
And she can remind us how subcommittees could work.
All right. Well, I can definitely reach out and see her availability.
Okay, or anyone in the department for that matter. Okay, anything else?
Just
See no other.
clarifying, there's only one presentation then next month, right? There's only one group of students presenting.
Yes, there's only the one group. There's just 2 students in this whole semester's program,
Perfect.
so it won't be quite as long as usual.
Right. So I think just for clarification, I think we're all used to a very long next month meeting because of the variety of student presentations. So I think a full agenda would just be on par.
Yes. Okay. Well, seeing nothing else, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, Brandon, could you please call the roll?
All right. Well, first, was that Vic or Lisa? Or Michelle?
It was Vic and Michelle.
Okay,
Same
which
time.
which one of you wants to be put down for the second?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll put Michelle down.
Fine. Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Here's the roll for adjourning. Eric DeGroot,
Aye.
Pat Helquest,
Aye.
Lisa Marone, Lisa,
Aye.
thank you. Ken Osmond,
Aye.
Bob Peschel,
Aye.
Brad Spanbauer,
Aye.
Aaron Wojciechowski,
Aye.
Michelle Mutzel,
Aye.
and Margie Davy.
Aye. You do all realize that's just the way that we find out who stayed for the rest of the meeting, right?
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.